The night was quiet. Too quiet. Brian Bethel tightened his grip on the steering wheel as his car cut through the darkness of the Texas backroads. The clock on the dashboard read 2:17 a.m. He'd been driving for hours, his eyes heavy with exhaustion, but he pushed forward. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, lined with skeletal trees and the occasional flicker of a dying streetlight. Then, movement. A figure stepped into the edge of his headlights. Brian slammed the brakes, his heart lurching. The tires screeched against the asphalt, and for a terrifying second, he thought he'd hit someone. But when the dust settled, he saw them. 2 children. A boy and a girl, no older than 10 or 11, standing motionless in the middle of the road. Their clothes were strange, like something from an old photograph, slightly too formal, slightly wrong. The girl wore a faded blue dress, the boy in a button-up shirt that looked decades out of style. Brian rolled down his window, the cool night air rushing in. "Hey, you kids okay?" No response. The girl took a step forward. Her skin was pale, almost gray in the dim light. "Mister," she said, her voice flat, "our mom's sick. We need a ride to the hospital." Something about the way she spoke made Brian's skin prickle. There was no urgency in her tone, no fear, just a hollow, rehearsed plea. The boy remained silent, staring at him with unnerving stillness. Brian hesitated. His instincts screamed at him to drive away, but guilt gnawed at him. What if they really were in trouble? He glanced at their faces again, and that's when he saw it. The streetlight above them flickered. For the briefest moment, the shadows shifted, and their eyes were not human. Black. Completely, impossibly black. No whites, no irises, just bottomless, empty voids. The girl smiled. "Please," she whispered, her voice suddenly too close, as if she were right beside his ear. "Let us in." Brian's breath caught in his throat. His fingers trembled on the gear shift, and then the boy reached for the door handle. Brian's blood turned to ice as the boy's pale fingers curled around the door handle. The metal let out a soft click as the lock disengaged. Impossible since Brian never unlocked it. The girl leaned closer, her face now pressed against the window. Up close, her skin had an unnatural waxy sheen, like a mannequin left too long in the sun. "We're so cold," she whispered. Her breath didn't fog the glass. Brian's hand flew to the gear shift. As he jammed the car into drive, the boy's head suddenly snapped up at an impossible angle, his neck cracking audibly. "You have to let us in." The voice wasn't human. It came from both children at once, a guttural, multi-layered shriek that made Brian's ears ache. The car's interior lights flickered wildly as the temperature plummeted. Brian stomped on the gas. The tires screamed as the car lurched forward. In the rearview mirror, he saw the children standing perfectly still in the middle of the road, their heads turning in unison to track his escape. Then the radio crackled to life. "We know where you live," the girl's voice hissed through the static. Brian quickly turned it off, his hands trembling. When he looked back up, they were gone. But on the passenger seat, 2 small handprints slowly appeared in the frost, forming on the leather. Brian's hands trembled violently as he pulled into his driveway. The digital clock on his dashboard flickered erratically between 3:33 a.m. and static. He kept checking the back seat, half expecting to see those small, pale hands reaching from the shadows. The moment he stepped inside his house, the power went out. A child's whisper echoed through the dark hallway. "We found you." Brian stumbled backward, fumbling for his phone's flashlight. The beam revealed dozens of tiny black handprints covering the walls, some at waist height, others near the ceiling, as if something had been crawling there. His breath came in ragged gasps as he followed the trail to his bedroom. The sheets on his bed had been torn to shreds, and in the center lay a Polaroid photo that hadn't been there before. It showed Brian sleeping in his car at a rest stop hours earlier. 2 blurry figures stood outside his window, their black eyes gleaming in the flash. Scrawled on the back in childish handwriting, "Next time you won't wake up." Suddenly, the house phone rang. Brian knew he shouldn't answer, but some unnatural compulsion made him lift the receiver. The line hissed with static before a chorus of children's voices whispered, "We're already inside." Behind him, the closet door creaked open. Brian's body went rigid as the closet door swung fully open. The stench of damp earth and rotting flesh poured out, making his eyes water. From the inky blackness inside, 2 pairs of gleaming black eyes appeared, then 4, then 6. The children emerged slowly, their movements jerky and unnatural. Their mouths stretched into identical, grotesque smiles, revealing needle-thin teeth. The girl from the road reached out a decaying hand, flesh peeling to show blackened bone beneath. "We've been waiting for you, Brian," they chorused, their voices blending into one hollow tone. "You saw us. Now you belong to us." Brian's phone suddenly lit up, displaying an old newspaper article from 1937. "Local orphanage burns to the ground. 27 children perish." The black and white photo showed the same children now surrounding him, their eyes already darkened in death. The temperature plummeted as the truth crashed over Brian. These weren't demons or ghosts. They were something worse. Hungry remnants of tragedy that fed on fear, growing stronger with every person they terrified. The boy's head rotated 180 degrees with a sickening crack. "We don't want to hurt you," he lied sweetly. "We just want you to play with us. Forever." As their cold fingers closed around Brian's wrists, the last thing he saw was his own reflection in their void-like eyes, his pupils expanding, darkening, becoming just like theirs. A week later, Brian's car was found abandoned on the same stretch of road. The interior was covered in frost, despite the summer heat, and investigators noted strange, child-sized handprints on all the windows, both inside and out. Local legend says if you drive that road at night and see 2 children waving for help, don't stop. Because the real danger isn't the black-eyed children you see on the road. It's the one already sitting in your back seat.